Hello class, welcome to another lecture. So in the last class we had started the problem of counterfort retaining wall. So we had carried out the initial proportioning, we had done the overturning check, and we had done the soil bearing pressure check, for which we had to make some modifications in the toe slab to make it safe. So today's lecture we'll be continuing from what where we stopped in the last lecture. So one more stability check is remaining, which is sliding check. So that is what, or that is the portion from which I will continue things today. So sliding check, it is exactly similar to what you did in the previous problem. Here the difference is the PA component will not have any surcharge part, okay, because in this particular problem, unlike last problem, we don't have any surcharge. So sliding force you already calculated when you had actually checked for overturning. So actually I also have the previous handwritten note open so that I can reference it back. So this PA we had calculated in last lecture, and resisting for is mu into r. We already calculated it again, and mu is the coefficient of friction. Remember, r is not what we originally calculated, because for soil bearing pressure check we had modified the value of r because an extra part is being added to the top portion. So to this r you multiply coefficient of friction, you will get resisting force. Factor of safety in sliding is calculated by this formula, which we have seen from section 20 of IS 456. So it is coming out to be 1.074, which is lesser than 1.4, which is our desired factor of safety. Therefore, it is unsafe. So using our usual procedure, you provide a shear key. So first you want to calculate how much passive resistance is required. So what we do is we take this equation, but this time you take this as a factor of safety. So 1.4 into 1216 minus this numerator will be the balanced passive pressure that you require to be added to make it safe. So that is what is calculated here. So just like last problem, we assume a shear key, and we are assuming the same dimension 300 by 400, and you construct this diagram with the triangular passive earth pressure resistance that is built up due to the shear key, and here you have the phi angle, and the location of shear key is such that the reinforcement can go all the way down. So this is 2 meter, this is, so you have to have maybe 2.4 meter. Now you can be little here and there with this number, no need to be too stringent, okay. Anyway, so this is our triangular passive earth pressure diagram. So the net passive earth pressure is from this portion. So you can calculate the area of triangle, and for that, for which first you have to calculate H2. Again remember, 300 meter top or 300 mm, sorry, 300 mm topsoil we neglect. So you will get H2, based on which you can calculate passive earth pressure. Using that, we plug it in the factor of safety formula that we had used here. So in numerator you will have an extra term, and it is coming to be 1.763, which is greater than 1.4, which is okay. Okay, so sliding check is okay after providing a shear key. So we had completed all the stability checks and earth pressure checks. So now proportioning is done, proportioning is okay. So we will proceed to design. Okay, so in design, first let us design the toe slab. So again, remember what I told you about counterfort retaining wall. See, what happens is uh, this toe slab, actually there is a provision to provide a buttress here in counterfort retaining wall. So if you are providing a buttress here, then the action of toe slab will be different. Okay, so if you don't provide a buttress, then the behavior of toe slab is just like the toe slab of a normal cantilever retaining wall. Okay, both are cantilevering about the vertical stem. So here in this problem we are not providing any buttress, so this toe slab is exactly behaving like the toe slab of a cantilever retaining wall. So in the design, recall the steps that we done in the case of cantilever retaining wall. So you arrive at this pressure diagram. So this is the soil pressure at the bottom, which we had arrived in the last class. So these are the values 39 and 166. So those are these values 39 and 166. Then this is the sorry, excuse me. This is the sulfate of the toe slab. Remember, in just like cantilever retaining wall, soil sulfate in the toe slab conservatively we will ignore. So this is just the sulfate of the toe slab, and then heel portion you have all the vertical forces, sulfate of soil and sulfate of heel slab. If you have any surcharge, that also you have to consider. So here there is no surcharge. So this is how the stresses or external forces will look like. So you cancel out, and this is what you will get, the net stresses. So it will be upward for the top portion and downward for heel portion. Again, similar to what we have seen for the cantilever retaining wall. So toe slab design, you recollect, the critical section for bending moment is at the section of the heel of the vertical stem, and for one way shear it is at a distance of D, effective depth, right? So for effective depth, you subtract clear cover and half of bar diameter from total depth. So once you get effective depth, using this load diagram, you can calculate the shear force at this location. So that is what I have done here, again using a factor of safety of 1.5, and you can also calculate bending moment, but for bending moment you have to calculate at the vertical face. So that is again what is done here. So shear stress is shear force divided by BD. So you will get some shear stress. So remember, for the retaining wall we cannot provide stirrups. So the shear capacity should be met by the depth itself, for which the percentage of reinforcement plays a critical role. So using the table in IS 456, I have kept it open for your convenience. Using this table to get this particular shear stress, what is the PT you have to provide, that you have to back calculate. Okay, again using interpolation. So that interpolation is what I have done here. So it is seen that you require a PT of 0.367. Okay, now let us proceed for calculation of bending moment. So bending moment is this R mu by BD square. PT you will calculate. The calculated PT is 0.282, which is lesser than the PT we require to take this shear stress. Okay, so the PT we increase, so the AST calculated is this PT, which is what is required for shear, which is more than what is required for bending, into area, unit width and effective depth. So you will get area 60, assuming 16 dia bar, you will get the spacing. So the spacing turns out to be 85.933 mm, which is less. So let us go to 20 dia bar, so using which you will get a spacing of 134 mm, which we can lower it in multiples of 25. Again, detailing is an individual preference, but I would round it off to 25. So you provide a spacing of 125 mm. Now if you are using 20 dia bar, there will be a small revision in effective depth and all, but it is only minor, so we won't do the recalculation. Okay, so that is the design of toe slab. So for the toe slab, this is the direction of predominant bending. So in the other direction, we can provide distribution steel at 10 dia at 200 cm. Now let us come to the heel slab. So toe slab, whatever we discussed, it is exactly a revision for you as to what we had seen in the case of a cantilever retaining wall. But what's going on in the case of heel slab? That is something interesting which we will look at in detail, because remember, this is the counterfort retaining wall, and what we said was the heel slab is like a slab which is fixed, support with fixity on three sides, or it's like a rigid support or fixed support along this direction and two counterforts, and it is free on one side. So there are actually exact formulas to design such slabs which are having three fixities and one free end, but let us we'll use a simplified approach so that calculation will be easier. So for that, what we'll do is, see, you consider the plan diagram. So this is the plan. You have the retaining wall top, counterforts like this. So what we'll do is, we'll assume that you have a triangular portion which is cantilevering. So remember, the entire rectangle is heel slab. So a triangular portion which is generated by 45 degrees angle from the side, this will be designed as cantilevering from the face of vertical stem, and remaining portion will be designed as a continuous beam. So it is like this. See, the total length is 2.4 meter. This much is 3 meter. So 600 is the width of the retaining wall at the base. So this much is 2.4 meter. Okay. So if you use 45 degree angle, this is clear is 3 meter, right? The clear distance between counterforts is 3 meter, which we decided earlier. So 45 degree means this will come to 1.5 meter. So remaining there is barely 0.9 meter. Get 2.4 minus 1.5. So what it do is, the 1 meter at the end, we'll design it as like a, we'll design the heel slab as a like a continuous beam which is spanning between counterforts. Okay, so what you can do is, the pressure on these areas you can easily take that from this pressure diagram. Okay, interpolating, doing linear interpolation. So that is what I have marked here. So let us design these two portions separately. Now there are few portions in these regions which come neither in this triangular portion nor here, but whatever we get here in the shaded portions, we will meaningfully extrapolate to these areas as well. Okay, so first let us detail or design this portion of the heel slab. So this is a continuous slab. So since the sorry, not a continuous beam. So since net pressure is acting downwards, if you try to imagine it, it is like a continuous beam which is having tension at the bottom towards midspan and tension at the top at the counterfort locations. Okay, so remember, this is plan view. Both of these are plan views. So let us design this. So to design that, again, effective depth, you assume clear cut bar dia, then calculate the average loading. Okay, so using that average loading, this is the value, factor it 1.5. Now what you have to know is, see, this is like a continuous beam. So when we design continuous beams, spans, we take the effective span for design. Now there are many ways of calculating effective span. So one of the ways of calculating effective span is the uh, clear span plus effective depth. Okay, so that is what we will use here. So clear span is 3 meters center to center between counterforts, plus 4 on 5 is the effective depth that we have calculated. So this is the span. Now for continuous beams, we can safely assume that if the spans are symmetric, same and things like that, the maximum negative bending moment is WL square by 12 and maximum positive bending moment is WL square by 16. So a rough estimate of that you will also get it from IS 456. So remember the assignment which I had asked you to solve as part of assignment number 2. So there you can get that. Anyway, so using WL square by 16 and WL square by 12, we will calculate maximum negative and maximum positive bending moments. And maximum shear force you can calculate, it is half the reaction is half the total load in one span, right? So that so WU into clear span by 2 minus effective depth. So remember, shear force effective depth is at a distance of a critical section is at a distance of effective depth. That's why we are having this term. Okay, so you calculate bending moment, shear force. Using this bending moment and shear force, you can calculate the reinforcements. Again, we are not providing any stirrups, so the depth itself should meet the shear requirement. For bending moment requirements, separately we have to design it for positive and negative bending moment. So for top reinforcement, you will calculate nominal shear stress. Then the procedure is same, right? So for the shear stress, what is the PT you have to require? You will obtain that from the code in the from this particular table. Then you calculate for bending moment. If the PT is lesser than that you require for shear, you revise the PT. Then you calculate AST, based on which you will calculate spacing. So those procedures are same. I am not repeating it. Once you read the hand notes, it will be clear for you. So that particular calculation you do for top reinforcement at the counterfort location and bottom reinforcement at the central location using this moment. So this is the calculation for top reinforcement. This is for bottom reinforcement. So I am not repeating it again as I told you. Now let us do the calculation for, so that completes the design for this portion. Okay, top and bottom. Now in the transverse direction you can provide minimum steel just or distribution steel just like we provided for the toe slab. Now when you have this triangular distribution, what we do is we have to calculate the bending moment, right? So it is area half into 3 into 1.5 into effect of this loading on this. So you can divide it into a rectangle and a triangle. So rectangle centroid is at 1/3, triangle it is also at 1/3, means centroid of this area is at 1/3, but for triangle you have to multiply that by half to make it average loading. Now what we will also do is, see, actually due to the triangular distribution, so whatever you are calculating as per what I said is like average bending moment, but due to the triangular distribution at the middle there will be more. So to account for that you have to multiply by a factor of 2. Okay, so maximum bending moment is the average bending moment into 2 to make it, to bring it closer to the maximum since it's a triangular distribution, divide by 3 to make it bending moment per unit width. So you have the bending moment per unit width, sorry, unit span. then effective depth you calculate, because now see, you already have reinforcement which I calculated for this action. So for this action, along the top we had calculated a dia of 12 dia bars in this region. Okay, so your actual reinforcement, top reinforcement for this cantilever action will come under that. So effective depth is the this depth minus the bar dia, 12 dia. So based on which you will calculate the AST for the bending moment requirements of this cantilevering portion. Okay, so with this I will conclude this particular lecture. So just a recap, we did first the stability check, okay, for which we required a shear key. Then we designed a toe slab which is exactly same as that of cantilever retaining wall. For heel slab, this is where you have to pay attention. We used a simplified approach where we said that what we said was that this heel slab is under a peculiar support condition. You have fixity on three edges, right? This edge and counterfort edges, and this edge is free. So we'll use a triangular portion as cantilevering, and this portion, straight portion, we are assuming it is like continuously spanning over the counterforts. So this portion is supported on the counterforts and this portion is supported on the stem as a cantilever. So separately we designed this as a continuous beam, and this we designed it as a cantilevering portion about the vertical stem. So in principle we are not covered much, but calculations are there. So just go through that. Since it is recurring calculation, I have not gone through the details of each and every step. But if you have any doubts, please let me know. Thank you.